Hey there, welcome back to OverTake. Back in July, Automobilista 2 made great progress with the release of its version 1.5 update. Conflicting sets of data had caused issues with the tire model, which Razer Studios managed to fix for the most part. Now, with update 1.5.3, this was developed even further, but that is far from all. In fact, Razer has been hard at work regarding multiple facets of the sim. This time, improvements focused on the single-player quality of life, groundbreaking content, and a bunch of smaller fixes. All of this led to a much more consistent experience across the various tracks and cars. Here are our top 5 Automobilista 2 version 1.5.3 improvements. The biggest step forward in 1.5 were undoubtedly the physics. While version 1.5.3 did not advance things by as big a margin, improvements to the tire tread behavior further refined the physics. Of course, this is always subjective, but most cars behave much more like they should as a result. While some cars still handle better than others, the overall experience in AMS2 has become much more consistent. Gone are the hit or miss days that sim racers already experienced in Project Cars 2 that runs on the same engine. AMS2's version of the ever popular GT3 class will likely not fully satisfy the hardcore fans of that category that races them in other sims, but in other classes the sim really shines. Enthusiasts of historic open wheelers should be in heaven in Automobilista 2, which neatly leads us to our next entry. Entirely out of the left field, Razer showed brand new cars in their latest dev update, representing the 1992 and 1993 Formula 1 seasons. Two Formula high-tech generations include the McLaren MP4 7A and the MP4 8. This not only makes AMS2 the sim for fans of the 90s, but also actually introduce a feature that has never been in first-party content in sim racing before. The early 90s were full of technological advancements, and 1993 is generally regarded as the peak of high-tech F1 cars. Active suspension played a big part in that, and it has been modeled for the new cars. While only a few of the 1992 vehicles support the system, the 1993 grid is fully equipped with it. And other gizmos. Traction control, ABS, launch control and automatic gearboxes are all on board. More about that later in our top 5. Meanwhile, the historical Track Pack Part 2 DLC presents even more opportunities to accurately recreate races of the past. Interlagos layout may not have changed significantly since the early 90s, but having the 1991 and 1993 versions, the only occasions when the legendary Ayrton Senna won his home Grand Prix, adds enormous amounts of immersion. Alongside them comes Montreal 1991. It may not seem like there's a big difference to the 1988 version, already present in AMS2, but flatter curbs in some spots as well as a tighter final chicane introduced for the 1991 Grand Prix make for an experience that is different enough over a lap. Similarly, the original layout of the Barcelona Catalunya in its 1991 use is mostly the same as today's after the removal of the chicane in the final sector. However, Kamsa and the following Nissan chicane were much faster back then, so having this configuration available is a nice addition for setting up historic races. Combined with the different engine configurations of early 90s F1, the addition of active suspension and other electronic driver aids makes for grids with different strengths and weaknesses, plus a great soundtrack. Of course, as Razer has also reworked some of the external sound samples to be more lifelike. Active suspension tries to keep the car at the same ride height throughout the lap to stabilize the aerodynamics as much as possible. Back in the day, this was programmed individually for every circuit. AMS2 makes it possible to adjust it via 2 settings, either in the setup screen or even while driving in the in-car menu. This results in a much smoother ride and also opens the door for predecessor of DRS. By lowering the rear of the car, the rear wing produces less downforce and drag, perfect for speed boosts on the straights. It does not disengage automatically though, so drivers have to be aware of this. Meanwhile, the concepts of ABS and traction control are likely known by all sim racers by now. However, launch control is a bit different. Basically, this takes care of the race start automatically. All the driver does is hold down a button and the throttle. Once the light turns green, the let go of the button and the launch control makes for a clean start, even taking over upshifts until the first time the brakes are engaged. So how how to use those auto shifts? Since the auto gearboxes seem to be confusing to some, here is how they work. By default, automatic upshifts are enabled. You can change this either in the car menu or on the setup screen. Should you prefer to change gears yourself, you can switch the system off entirely. The other options only engage downshifts automatically or both up and downshifts. This is very much in line with how the real cars raced. The automatic upshifts have the theoretical advantage of always engaging at the ideal RPM. Short shifting is still possible though, as the driver can override the system and engage shift themselves. This is also possible for downshifts or with the full auto gearbox enabled. The system has also been added to the Formula V10 Gen 2 cars, as they are representing the 2001 F1 season. Initially, driver aids were banned from 1994 until 2001, but from the Spanish Grand Prix onwards, traction control, launch control and automatic upshifts were allowed again. And if you like our content as much as you like the sound of a V10 engine, it's finally time to subscribe, hit that bell and leave a like. Thank you so much. As already mentioned, update 1.5.3 focuses on single-player improvements. A big part of this is the AI. While the computer-controlled opposition had never been serviceable for a good racing in some combinations before, others did not work as well. Crucially, the AI difficulty settings led to widely varying results, meaning players had to readjust it frequently. Over the past months, Razer has worked on remedying this to polish the offline experience. And they certainly succeeded. For example, full-length Grand Prix are now perfectly possible. Before, the AI would sometimes not pit despite their tires being worn, so they would just keep going at an incredibly slow pace. Now they do use pit strategies that actually make sense. Additionally, they race much better. Of course, they are still not perfect and are somehow very slow in the corners of the new 91 version of Barcelona, but if you treat them with respect and a bit of caution, they actually make for a very fun and engaging offline experience now. Combined with the numerous skin packs and AI files available on Race Department, the AI can even show driver-specific behavior. Alain Prost's AI counterpart will likely take less risk than Ayrton Senna's or Juan Pablo Montoya's. Remember to set AI aggression to high for this to really shine through. The max setting will make every AI driver equally aggressive. Finally, to round out our list of the top 5 AMS2 version 1.5.3 improvements, the spotlight is on the weather. The live track component of the Madness engine is very potent when it comes to simulating racing in the rain. But that has not fully shown through until 1.3.5. Now, AMS2 very much changes that. Racing sims still struggle to properly implement a wet line. In short, racers do not really need to avoid the previously rubbered-in racing line once it starts raining in most cases. In real life, this would be a terrible idea, as it would become very slippery. AMS2 already had a fundamental mechanic for this in place with 1.5, but it only became really noticeable in the latest update. While not perfect, there is a noticeable loss of grip on the racing line, usually resulting in understeer. There were a few hairy situations in a test race at Catalunya 91 we encountered because of this. Additionally, the AI finally becomes better in the rain. As they do run on a different physics engine to save on CPU resources, they previously could keep on racing almost as if it were dry. Now they behave more believable in the wet and tend to avoid the dry racing line. Overall, they still seem to have more grip under acceleration compared to the player though. Still, it is in a much better place than before. What are your impressions of Automobilista 2's version 1.5.3 update? Are you excited for a sim that actually aims to provide a great single-player experience as well? Let us know in the comments below. And if you are still looking for affordable sim racing gear and a direct drive entry bundle, maybe this video is the right one for you. We just recently reviewed the PXN V12 Lite bundle with a 6 Nm direct drive wheelbase. Until then, see you next time.